Welcome to the second video in our chicken genetics series. In our last video, we learned about the first of three types of dominance, complete dominance. And today, we will be focusing on the second and third types of dominance, incomplete dominance and co-dominance. Before we go on, I'd like to quickly review two terms from our last video, homozygous and heterozygous. A chicken is homozygous for a certain trait if both genes are the same. For example, this bird has two lavender genes, so it is homozygous for lavender. On the other hand, this bird has one copy of the black gene and one copy of the lavender gene, which makes it heterozygous because the two genes are different. This heterozygous bird is called the heterozygote. Now that we have all that covered, let's get started with incomplete dominance. The difference between complete dominance and incomplete dominance is only something that can be observed in the heterozygote. In complete dominance, the birds will look the same regardless of whether they have one or two copies of a particular dominant gene. In incomplete dominance, that heterozygous bird will look different from a bird that is homozygous dominant. Let's take blue, black, and splash for an example. And remember, we are talking about Andalusian blue here, not self blue, also known as lavender. For a little more context on this gene, blue dilutes all the black areas of a bird's feathers. A homozygous black looks black, of course, but add one copy of the blue gene and it will dilute all the black areas to a bluish gray. Now, if you add a second copy of this blue gene, the black will be further diluted into the variety that we call splash. So, to recap, 2 copies of black makes black, 1 copy of blue with 1 copy of black makes blue, and 2 copies of blue make splash. You could almost say that these two colors mix to form a new one. The heterozygote, in this case, the bird that is blue, is basically an intermediate between splash and black. Now, if you bred 2 blue chickens together, 25% of the offspring would get 1 black gene from each parent, meaning the chick would be black. 50% of the offspring would get 1 blue gene from one parent and a black gene from the other, making it blue, and the remaining 25% would get 1 blue gene from each parent, making it splash. Another example of incomplete dominance in chickens would be black, dun, and khaki. The dun gene works just like the blue gene, is the dilution of all the black feathers on a bird. 2 copies of black makes black, of course, and 2 copies of the dun gene make khaki. Since this gene is incomplete dominant, 1 copy of the dun gene with 1 copy of the black gene forms an intermediate between the 2 colors, black and khaki, and makes dun. Now, co-dominance is very similar, and these two types of dominance are often confused for each other, but the actual difference between the two is pretty simple. In co-dominance, rather than one gene dominating over the other, or even forming a new color, both genes are expressed. They might not exactly be expressed equally, however, both are there. For example, let's take a look at paint. Paint is 1 copy of dominant white and 1 copy of black. As you can see, this paint silkie here has black and white feathers. Since there are black and white feathers present, we know that this is co-dominance because both genes are expressing themselves. Had it been incomplete dominance, this bird would have been gray. So, to recap, incomplete dominance is when 2 genes together form a new color. For example, breeding a black bird with 2 black genes to a splash bird with 2 blue genes forms blue. And in co-dominance, rather than 2 different genes forming a new color in the heterozygote, both genes are expressed. For example, 1 dominant white gene with 1 black gene makes paint. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.